If you're still driving around in 2025 with a rooftop tent on your truck or SUV, stop watching this video because I promise you won't be a happy camper when it's over. Overlanding is dead, and that is a beautiful thing to say out loud. I've been waiting 7 years to make this video, so at this point, it's really more for me than it is for you. But if you're curious why I think overlanding is dead, stick around. Welcome, friends, to another beautiful, provocative, borderline insulting episode of my off-road internet television show called Chasing Dust, only on Driving Line, of course, and brought to you by the wonderful folks over at Nitto Tire. And actually, I get a ton of messages about this Nitto hat that I got on, and I'm sorry to say that you can't actually buy one. It was actually a real collab that Nitto did with Melon Hats, my favorite hat company, and the only way to get it is to be part of the Nitto Pit Crew. And if you don't know what Nitto Pit Crew is, then you've probably been living under a rock for the last few years, but you can find out more about it in the link below in the description. Anyways, back to the insulting. In April 2018, I wrote an article on Driving Line titled "Doing It for the Gram: How Instagram Ruined Overlanding." People were pissed. I linked the article below so you can go and read it yourself, but basically I said that Instagram overlanders are going to dilute the hobby and make it harder for the rest of us who actually like getting away for the weekend without bumper-to-bumper traffic on the trails. People wholeheartedly disagreed and said a lot of nasty things to me about that article. Now, fast forward to the last few years, turns out I was right. We've had to share the trails with people who had no business being out there. People who got suckered into thinking that if they spent enough money on gear, they'd turn into some off-road survivalist. People who thought a $5,000 bed rack and a diesel heater made them an adventurer. And guess what? All those people are now gone. They sold the rig, took the loss, and went back to golf or flying to Cabo for the weekend or whatever the hell they were doing before they got into overlanding. And to be clear, overlanding didn't die because the trails got harder. It died because people pretending to be overlanders realized it's actually hard. Overlanding exploded during the pandemic. Between 2020 and 2022, the US actually saw a 34% increase in car-based camping, national parks had record-breaking attendance, and suddenly every guy with a credit card was dumping money into a build. But why did that happen? Well, because they had a lot of time, money, and nowhere else to go. They couldn't fly to Hawaii, so they thought they'd get into overlanding instead, which I totally understand. You want to go on vacation with your family and you can't fly somewhere, I would do the same thing. But here's the problem. Overlanding isn't a hobby that you buy. It's not something you can just pick up on a weekend because REI had a sale on jet boils. It takes skill to drive technical terrain, it takes experience to navigate remote areas, it takes common sense to know when you're in over your head. And most of these people, they had literally none of that. They had gear instead of experience. And that's exactly why it's my opinion that overlanding collapsed under its own weight. And if you want to see proof of this, just look at rooftop tents. Remember when you couldn't drive 2 miles without seeing one? Now they're starting to vanish. In fact, if you go on Facebook Marketplace, you can find way more of them for sale. Number one, they're stupidly heavy. Nothing like slapping 200 pounds at the highest possible point on your truck to completely ruin your handling. Number two, they destroy your fuel economy. Yeah, nothing says practical like paying $6 a gallon for 12 miles per gallon. They're annoying as hell to use. Have you ever tried to set up a rooftop tent in the dark or break one down in the rain? It's not fun. And people realize that they hate climbing up and down that ladder. It looks cool on an Instagram post, not so cool when you're half asleep at 3 a.m. and trying to pee. At first, people tried to convince themselves it was worth it, but eventually they just took them off. And once that rooftop tent came off the rig, overlanding didn't seem so exciting anymore. Of course, I'm generalizing, but that is one really good example of how it's dying. But here's the part that nobody actually talked about during the boom of overlanding. Overland builds are actually pretty miserable to drive in real life. And all these ultimate overlanding rigs that influencers were pushing for years on us, yeah, it turns out they actually suck at being daily driven vehicles. They're sluggish on acceleration because they're loaded down with 700 pounds of gear. They're squishy, nose-diving suspension that makes them feel like a school bus on the pavement. They're a pain in the ass to park because the bed rack blocks your rear visibility. They're noisy as hell on the highway because of the tent, the awning, the light bar, the tires. So what happened? Again, people just woke up. They realized they don't actually want to daily drive a 6,000 pound gas guzzler with 12 miles per gallon. They realized they don't need a $10,000 overland build just to go camping for the weekend. And so they bailed. They went back to normal SUVs, normal trucks, normal vacations. And the second that overlanding stopped being an easy flex, they just lost interest. And honestly, that's the best thing that could have happened, because for the last few years, real off-roaders have had to babysit these people. How many times have we seen it? Some guy with a $90,000 Overland build stranded in the desert because he has all the gear but no clue how to use it. People calling for search and rescue because they went down a trail and had no business going on, and campgrounds getting trashed because someone wanted to overland for the weekend but didn't bother to respect the land that they were driving on. And now that is slowing down. And for those of us who were actually here before that trend, that just means fewer recoveries, fewer clogged trails, and fewer people playing dress up in the backcountry. Another reason that overlanding collapsed, in my opinion, is that the trucks just got better. It used to be that if you wanted an Overland-Ready vehicle, you had to build it. But nowadays, you can just go into a dealership and buy one straight off the factory floor. The Ford Bronco Everglades. They got a factory snorkel, a winch, mud terrains, no mods necessary at all. Jeep Gladiator Mojave, 33's off-road tuned suspension, locking rear diff, ready out of the box. Silverado ZR2 Bison, AEV steel bumpers, 35-inch tires, skid plate, full package. Instead of just pumping $15,000 of mods, people just bought a truck that already did what they needed. And suddenly they didn't need an extreme build to get away for the weekend. And once people realized that overlanding doesn't require a rolling REI store, the whole mindset shifted. They just took the truck, packed a sleeping bag, maybe a cooler, and off they went. So is overlanding really truly dead? The hype is dead. The trend is absolutely over. But the people who were really about it before all this craziness, they're still out there. They never really needed fancy builds, expensive gear, or Instagram likes to justify being out there on the trails. And now they get to enjoy these trails again without a bunch of clueless people clogging them up. So if you're still out there doing this thing, you win. It's becoming less and less common that you have to share the space with people who bought their way into this life. The industry is slowing down, the influencers are leaving, and the campgrounds are clearing out. And the ones that are still standing, well, they were never in it for the trend. So again, my final thoughts, overlanding didn't die because it was hard. It died because the people who made it trendy realized it was actually hard. And I, for one, couldn't be any happier because I've had to do my own fair share of recoveries for people who don't even know how to use a winch. And again, guys, this is just my personal observations over the last couple of months of being out there on the trails during what I would call desert season in the wintertime. I'm just seeing a lot more of the hardcore enthusiasts out there again, like it was before all of this craziness started. And I really do think that it's a good thing because it really does help progress the industry rather than bring it down. And while I know that there's a lot of overland businesses out there that might be hurting right now because people are actually making their way out, we're kind of over the peak over here, I truly do think that for the longevity of the hobby, this is actually a good thing. But let me know in the comments what you guys think below. Are you seeing less of these fake overlanders out on the trail? Are there less rooftop tents driving around your town? Are you finding more of them on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist? And if you are a real off-roader overlander who's out there actually doing the deal, make sure you hit the subscribe button because you're in good company here on Chasing Dust. Probably gonna get a ton of hate comments below this video too. But that's gonna do it for today's episode, you guys. If you've been here from the beginning, you know that this has always been my stance. This is just me. It's who I am. I don't like overlanders. If you made it this far and you're still not offended and you still have a bit of a sense of humor, thank you. Keep coming back to this show. But one last time, you guys, my name is Matt McAdam, aka Desert Chief, only on Driving Lines Chasing Dust. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Hey guys, thanks for watching. This is Matt from Chasing Dust. Be sure to hit that subscribe button because Driving Line's creating all kinds of awesome content for gearheads just like you. I'll see you guys out there.